Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy perspective. And I love these games. This is the compilation of the 3 games detailing the journeys of Phoenix Wright as he goes through and shouts objection to shit and going through all kinds of courtroom shenanigans. Now, I understood the meme with like the objections and stuff like that, but now that I'm a fan of the series, and yes, this jacket is not like, oh, these games are shit or anything like that. I genuinely did not expect to love them as much as I do. And the thing is, I know that their visual novel style and their gameplay is kind of minimal, but it's the story and the journey and flipping around and getting through the cases and understanding the journey. Now, I went through with a walkthrough just to make sure that I didn't like waste any time or whatnot. But if you want to go in blind, I would recommend that as well. I'm not really going to get into spoiler territories of like any specific cases. I mean, like 2 of them have 5 cases, 1 of them has 4, and the thing is they vary in length. These were built mainly on not mobile, but like handheld games. Well, there's a difference between handheld and mobile because of how the different kind of design philosophies there are. However, you can save at certain kind of junctures and make sure that you have your own kind of stopping points, because some of these cases are long, and trying to find a kind of natural stop point, you won't really get into that until you kind of get through the rhythm of each kind of like longer normal length case and figuring out kind of what goes on. So, Phoenix Wright is our main character, and then we're introduced into his cadre of other kind of side characters, introducing crazy and wacky kind of things going on. Crazy names, crazy things that you have to do in the courtrooms. I'm not going to go deep into them because the whole thing with it is the twists and the turns. However, I do believe that they go a little bit too crazy towards the end on certain kind of ones and going plot twisty for their own kind of sake to a degree. However, never to an extent that it does irreparable damage to the story or what's kind of going on. You understand after the first couple of cases and how you kind of go through the stories, how these are structured and how they kind of go for melodrama and complete nuts of like objection and everything. So it goes through kind of legal proceedings. It goes with its own kind of rules in the world. It's kind of like Law and Order. There are better rules and procedures in court systems that don't allow for like those kind of crazy twists and turns. So they dramatize it, but they do it in such a way that it's fun and nuts, and it's just entertaining to me. Now, granted, if you don't like that, I completely understand. I mainly came in this, I'm like, I'll at least support this kind of Capcom game, and I'm very glad I did, because I heard that it didn't really do that well on Xbox, but I'm like, let's see what goes on here. I went through all of it, I got all the achievements on them, and I'm a fan of the series now. I actually can't wait when they're doing the next 3 games that are going to be coming on Xbox in 2024, so I'm like, yeah, I'm gutted for that. So, let's see here. These are mainly story-focused games, so your gameplay is going to be investigating and pretty much making sure that you hit the right, correct evidence to not trap, but like make sure that the truth comes out. Because Phoenix Wright is a defense attorney, and you're usually kind of fighting some kind of prosecutor and whatnot. And granted, certain kind of cases have certain kind of different objectives, so it kind of changes up, and they do kind of mess around with the formula, which is really kind of nice. And the thing is, it's not all just cut and dry court cases and legalese. We get into wacky kind of shit, people acting fucking insane, spirit mediums, ghosts and shit. It fucking goes nuts. So go in being like, I'll see how entertained I am, and then just see where it takes you, because sometimes I didn't get tonal whiplash from here. I think they kept a nice, overall consistent tone with even all the kind of batshit insanity going on. Stuff that needed to be treated seriously was treated seriously, and stuff that was fucking presented as funny and jokes was treated as funny and jokes. And that they were able to meld them together. That is a very hard thing, and sometimes something that I've noticed in certain anime and Japanese video games, that sometimes that balance is not done well. Sometimes something is treated as funny, and I'm like, that's not funny, man. And like or it comes up and it just completely breaks the seriousness of something that goes on. Granted, I've seen it in other kind of things, but I've got main examples from definitely anime that I've seen. Not really seen too much of it in games where it's just like, whoop. But I'm not too... No, Metal Gear Solid. Yeah, that's a good example series right there. Granted, I was just talking about Metal Gear Solid with Reverb Jill Sandwiches, but that one definitely has stuff where it's just like, okay, funny, serious, and then stuff that's like, what the fuck is going on here? Where you get that kind of tonal whiplash. But granted, I think this series balances it well enough. So, mostly it deals with all your different kind of court cases, and they're usually structured in you getting introduced to the case, doing an investigation of whatever is pretty much going on. Usually, most of these follow some kind of... well, no. You'll see what they kind of go in if you decide to go for them. But normally the defendants that you defend have a really serious kind of thing. Normally involving kind of either murder... No, most of it's not really a spoiler. Usually it's set up as some kind of murder or whatnot has gone down. Where in the rare cases that some other precipitating event has occurred, but it's mainly done with murder in mind, so that way you have the most pressing concern of making sure that the defendant is not found guilty or whatnot for what's kind of going on. And then you go through, you investigate, you try and find all different kind of clues and everything. I'm like looking through this and I'm thinking, well, even I've been like talking with Reverb Jill Sandwiches about this in regards to Resident Evil. One of the things that this game does well is doing the investigations and then using that kind of evidence and everything in the court cases, because you go with your investigation, you bring that into court, you then start arguing your cases, going against the prosecution, bam, 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 objection, motherfucker, and doing all this kind of stuff is like, shit, do I even have that? Can you, and then sometimes you don't even have evidence and you have to figure out if you can bluff it or not. Very kind of interesting and different kind of tactical kind of gameplay of what's kind of going on. Now granted, this isn't very engaging gameplay. You have to come at it at a different kind of mindset. If you're very action-oriented or really into shooters, action-adventure, Indiana Jones, Uncharted kind of stuff, this isn't that kind of one, but you can still get the same kind of like adrenaline rush out of it, or the same kind of enjoyment out of it, if it's a different kind of thing. Now granted, this gameplay is not for everybody. It is very heavily story and character focused. It really excels on that. So for actual hitting buttons and doing things, if you're judging this game by that, it doesn't do that really well at all. I mean, you can't get Phoenix Wright to punch the prosecution. Granted, that would introduce some various interesting kind of gameplay mechanics and changes, but I would think it's really weird that Capcom has this series and none of that kind of investigation has gone over to Resident Evil. It's like, do that. Sorry, fusing a little bit of kind of stuff, but judging that's not what this gameplay's objective is for. It is for the stories and the characters going through the journey, understanding what's going on with these cases, what's going on with these characters, how the interplays are going on, and if you can outwit your enemy. This is very more of a thinking kind of thing, and granted, you could be like, you used a walkthrough, but the thing is, I wanted to kind of enjoy what was kind of going on, and getting kind of frustrated over certain kind of things, and having to replay and redo certain kind of things would get kind of tedious after a while. Granted, that's mainly because of my differences in how I kind of play games. If you don't do that, that's fine. Do that. And the thing is, find a walkthrough that spoils as little as possible. I didn't go with the one that said, this is the person that did it. I don't go for that. I'm like, oh god. And even though I was able to kind of hit and everything, seeing it go out and happen in front of you and you guiding Phoenix throughout these different kind of things really hits differently. It is a game series that I would vastly recommend to people that are into story and character. Now granted, this is very read heavy. The main things that you hear are like objection or slamming or you have to read a lot here. So if you have vision issues, this is going to present a problem. If you don't want to read a lot, I would definitely not recommend this game to you. And that's not saying that the game is bad because of that. It's if you don't want to read a lot and your objective is to play a game where you're just going around beating the shit out of stuff, Devil May Cry. Any kind of Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, action games like that. If you don't want to read a lot, it's fine. This game's not for you. This game series is not for you, and that's fine. That doesn't mean that you're wrong or the game's wrong. It's just mismatch. Well, it happens. But I really would recommend looking into this series for a lot of people just to understand how crazy it is, because you just hear the slams, the objection, the finger pointing, all the character modeling, and the art style is great. The infusion of being able to really get a sense of the characters, and for lack of a better term, I would say flavors. It's not, I mean, granted, some of them have certain kind of archetypes, but as you start getting into each case and learning each kind of character, they become more than that, and they flesh them out, and people, you go through this series, and you see characters return, and see where they're at in their lives, and how it affects certain cases, and it's great. And it's not even a thing about, RPG choice, it's just a great living world, where you start going through and seeing this kind of crazy shit, and it's like, oh shit, here's the consequences of these actions and everything that happened, and bam, and you get back, and you're learning all this kind of stuff, and it just pulled me in, and I just love this series now. And I hope that Capcom puts more of these games on the Xbox, because, I mean, they at least got me for buying it, and I understand that that's only one weird, crazy dude talking about how they love objection and, law craziness, but I didn't expect myself to love this trilogy as much as I did. I love when you're able to find a game or something, and you're just like, yeah, I'm going through some stuff. I want to support these kind of things. Let's see what's going on here. Picking a game, boop, boop, boop. And it just grabs you, and you're like, alright, let's see what kind of goes on here. Man. It just works well. I love the structures of being investigation, trial, and then as it gets kind of longer, you do investigation, trial, and sometimes it goes a little bit longer. Find yourself and pace yourself with certain kind of stuff, because it was built as a handheld game first, and that affects its design decisions and how you can save and everything. So just save when you want to, understand where your kind of points are. If you're like, I've been playing this for a while, I kind of want to break, because it does not really punish you on that. The only punishment is if it's grabbed you and you're like, I gotta see what's going on. Come on, man. Show me what happens. What's going on with this trial, and how to kind of get to an end with it. And then it gets you at the stopping points of investigation phase, to be continued. Going through the trial phase, end to that phase, to be continued. And then you have those are your natural kind of save points, but you can save during any kind of points if you're like, I might accidentally fuck this up. What's kind of going on? So save it, and then do it, and then you just reload it pretty fast. And it's not even enhanced for the Series X, so even without enhancements, it still was super fast for loading and everything. It just worked well. I had fun with it. I would recommend this to a lot of people, but if it's not your kind of bag, I totally get that. It's fine. I didn't know if it was going to be for me, and I don't mind trying out visual novels. It's which ones kind of bring me in, because I tried certain other kind of ones that were on Game Pass, and I'm just like, these really don't fit for me. And Phoenix Wright, I bought it before it got onto Game Pass, and I don't care. I would have probably bought it just to make sure that I kept it anyway, even though they only had it digitally. I would have definitely fucking did physical for that shit. Because I'm like, I'm gonna keep this, and I'm gonna be like, hey people, Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, Trilogy, love this shit, man. It is kind of weird, though, because it's played off as kind of Japanese legal system, but kind of got us in, LA, which is kind of weird, but I didn't give a shit. It's minimal enough where I'm like, I'm pretty much understanding this of the Japanese kind of legal system, which incidentally enough, was kind of good that I went through the Judgment series to kind of understand certain kind of Japanese legal systems, because of the, like, lawyer pin and everything. So that was a kind of weird kind of coincidence to go from that and then to this and be like, hey, I learned some stuff from the Judgment series, and that was actually pretty kind of cool to help me appreciate more of the stuff that I saw in here. And I know this sounds kind of vague, and that there could be certain kind of parts or certain kind of characters that I liked. I mean, I actually thought that all the characters were well done. Villains had good motivations, supporting characters were fleshed out and got even more fleshed out as the trilogy went on. There was no character that I thought was poorly done, like, as just a complete kind of caricature. There was even stuff and nuance behind certain ones that were these kind of stereotypes of certain kind of things. And they were kind of background and sometimes for certain kind of cases before getting to the meatier kind of ones. And I just love, like, of the main cast, there's not one that I hate. There's certain ones that I don't agree with and don't like what they do, but I then learned about them and understood more about them as it went on, and it just, that's a rare thing to have. Sometimes you have those characters that just annoy the shit out of you, and you're like, listen, I can understand what you're trying to do here, but that's not fucking working here, guys. That didn't happen for me here. Interestingly enough, as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, no, I liked learning about all these characters. Some of them did annoying things that I didn't like, but it didn't mean that they were a bad character or badly executed. Yeah. So, to recap this perspective for this trilogy, if you're into story and into characters, I would very much recommend this. This is not action heavy at all, and it's more reading heavy. So if those do not interest you, I would highly recommend not going for this. If anything, if the story and everything sound interesting to you, look up a Let's Play and kind of go through the story that way, so that way you don't have to deal with the kind of nuttiness and stuff that you really wouldn't like for it, because I do think these are interesting characters and stories, and it's just kind of cool. I could definitely see these being done as an anime and have, oh god, that would be really kind of cool to, like, take each kind of game and each kind of case and have it as a Phoenix Wright anime. That would really work pretty well. Shit, even if they did a live action one, like, this would fit very well as a TV series, because of the the drama and everything, and shouting objections and everything. It worked. So, with all this kind of stuff going on, that's how I kind of would go on. I would recommend this for people that are into those things, and if you're not into those things, that's quite alright. It's fine to not be into those things. So those are my opinions on the trilogy. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you agree with me, if you I went out of balance there. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.